Welcome to Executives at the Edge, a podcast brought to you by MEF. I'm your host, Pascal Menezes. Join me as we explore thought-provoking perspectives from the leaders and changemakers who are propelling enterprise digital transformation forward. Well, I'm so excited to have Suresh Katukam from Nile. He's the Chief Product Officer and the co-founder, and what an exciting episode. We're going to be discussing Enterprise Campus NaaS, and Campus NaaS is very, very new, and it's really going to cover about what is Campus NaaS and the value benefits, and why is it so important in the overall network as a service blueprint that we've launched at MEF. So very, very exciting episode. Suresh, welcome to Executives at the Edge.
Pascal, thank you for inviting me to Executives at the Edge. And it's nice to see you again. And you guys at MEF are definitely on a journey. I really believe that you're going to be defining and simplifying what network as a service. You're going to be really helping the customers. So I really appreciate the effort that you're doing at MEF. And again, thank you for inviting me to the podcast. And a bit about myself. Pascal, I did a lot of research in artificial intelligence. Published several research papers in AI. In fact, my research was beyond machine learning or deep learning, but it's based on learning from experience. And I have more than about 25 years of experience. In 1998, when I was trying to deploy a network at a customer site, I built the entire software stack, was built and deploying it at a customer's location, and it took about a week to debug a problem. And you know what was the root cause? As you know very well, it's the human configuration error. To figure out that it was a configuration error, it took a week for me to debug it. That is when it struck me idea that, hey, what if I use AI to debug these problems and help network support engineers, or even augment network engineers with AI. I founded a company in 98 to use AI to help network engineers. And then in 2012, 13 timeframe, I was talking to AIG insurance person. He's the IT director. And he was talking about, I was talking to him all about the RF and how the technology works and everything. And the IT director got up and said, Suresh, if you're so passionate, you're so confident about your technology, why are you telling me all these technologies? Why didn't you deliver per user per month model? That was a good aha moment. Customers are not really interested in knowing all these technologies, too many complex technologies they have to understand. And so that started my thread about, how do we really simplify it for our customers? Then in 2017, Pascal, there was a floods that happened in Houston. And first thing everyone wanted, even before water and food, is the connectivity. As you know, these days, connectivity is so essential for everyone, right? And we set up, sent experts to go and build emergency networks for the businesses to up and running. And that, again, led me to the belief that, connectivity has become so essential for every organization, for every business. It needs to be up and running very quickly. It needs to be secured. It should be working. And this is when I met Pankaj Patel, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Nile. And we ran into each other and we discussed that our visions aligned. That's when, when you think of building campus network as a service, you need a lot of amazing talent. So Sri Hosokote is another co-founder. John Chambers is the only company he co-founded. Four of us came together. We hired best talent in the valley. And as you know, this is not for the faint of heart. You're building a lot of hardware, a lot of software, delivering as a service. It required amazing team, amazing talent, and a lot of resources. That is when we started the Nile.
So John Chambers, that is a big name. So congratulations. And so tell me a little bit about, Nile is really doing network as a service. And network as a service, as you know, we just launched our blueprint for network as a service in October at our Global NaaS event. But we talk about NaaS all up as a service delivery model, as you talked about. It's a subscription model, but you're doing something a little more different than a service provider. It's a campus NaaS. So what's the good, bad, and ugly in today's approach, and what is campus NaaS to start with?
Sure. So Pascal, as I said, NaaS means a lot of things for a lot of people, right? And we are focusing on enterprise wired and wireless, purely the access layer, the campus network as a service. And before we go into, what is a campus NaaS, let's talk about, what are the problems, right? And I'll give you some examples. Even today, I was talking to an IT director at a high school here. He's a networking IT director. It's a premium school. And himself said that when he's on a Zoom call and he needs to walk from one place to another place, he has to turn off the Wi-Fi. That's the current state. And there's another premier institution in Bay Area where when we talk to the students and when they get an interview call, they turn off the Wi-Fi so that they can be on the cellular call and make sure they use cellular in order to do the interviews. That still tells you that we have quality problems. That is one. And second is, we talk to Fortune 50 customer and they've been using, one of the network access control software from a leading vendor. And the person who is managing left the company, and even a Fortune 50 customer was not able to hire a person for another 4 months. And until then, they could not manage it. So hiring and retaining the talent has been another big problem for a lot of our customers. And then the third one is the security, where, you probably know this donut story. Have you heard of that, Pascal, where one guy came into deliver as a donuts?
No, please go on.
Let me tell you that, okay? So this company hired a ethical hacker, if you want to call, and the person came in as if he's delivering the donuts, put the donuts in the lobby, and he walked around as if he's a casual employee, said hello to a lot of people, and he sits in a cube. There's an empty cube, connects to the Ethernet port, and he was able to discover all the resources on the network. He could have easily propagated malware into many of the devices on the network. He did not do it, but he was able to list out all the resources on the network. That is the kind of security. So when we talk to CISOs, one of the CISOs said, hey, we need to isolate every user and device. We need to secure every port. And they did it. You know how long it took? 5,600 hours to make sure that every port is secured. Then, Pascal, as you probably have seen, that almost all customers are looking for, subscription model. Not a leasing model, not a crazy financing model, but everything, as you know, whether it's a compute, whether it's storage, whether it's a software, they've been consuming as a subscription. Now they want network as a subscription as well. Pure subscription, not like turning into just OpEx model, but pay per user per month or pay per square foot, or different model, but based on the subscription model. Those are the requirements that we heard, Pascal. So based on your own experience, do you agree these are the ones? Do you see any other requirements that a NaaS should address?
No, I think for the enterprise, you were kind of hitting its sweet spot. I think this is driven because software-defined networks came into play, a decade plus ago, virtualization. But I think more importantly, in the campus, there is a lot of, I remember the Wi-Fi is really hard to get right, especially, just standard Wi-Fi. Now private 5G is coming in, you got Ethernet ports, LAN Ethernet ports, and, people put ACLs all over the place and VLANs. It was all very complex. But I think what you've done is you remove that complexity through this campus network as a service. And I think more importantly, because you can do the subscription model because you built your own hardware, your own Wi-Fi units. So you own all of that technology yourself. It's not just a management model coming from the cloud. You really have built the technology, deployed it in the campus, and manages it from the cloud, all as a subscription utility model, right? So do I have that right?
Yes, Pascal. And, this is where, for your earlier question, all right, campus NaaS has been talked for last 12 years or even 15 years. And there are many, many attempts to it. And it's a lipstick on a pig, where they took the existing hardware, they took the existing software, they put in, software licenses, they put in monitoring and management, and sold it as a service. Effectively, what they did was, hey, you don't need to have your IT team, we'll manage it for you. They did not deliver network as a service at all, right? And as you said, we needed to go back to a drawing board, start from ground up and build our own hardware, our own software. And the reason we had to do it, Pascal, is one of the things that we heard from the customers: when you deliver network as a service, you have to guarantee the service.
Yes.
How do you guarantee that network is always up and running? And you also mentioned, Pascal, Wi-Fi has been a challenge. How do you guarantee that you have fiber Wi-Fi coverage everywhere?
Exactly.
And then the third one is, how do you guarantee that you have a capacity for everything that you needed? So you got it right. You needed to, we needed to develop everything from ground up. The hardware, the software, entire thing, we had to flip it on its head and build it and deliver it as a service.
Yeah, and talk about that performance, because I think, every enterprise and every customer wants to know how well is their application performing? Does it work right? It's like a number one question. And I think what you've done is you have a guarantee of some kind. And I think you do it also for cybersecurity using zero trust, I think also. So Can you explain to our listeners a little bit about this guarantee that you provide?
Sure, Pascal. When you think of a network as a service, what are the customers getting? It's not the access points, it's not the switches that matter the most. What they want is throughout their buildings, throughout their site, they want the network to be up and running, right? So we don't believe, frankly, as much as I love to look at my own AP uptime, switch uptime, that doesn't mean anything to the end user. So what we do is we have a physical sensors that you can deploy throughout your building, okay, anywhere, everywhere. These sensors are acting like end users, testing the end-to-end network, showing that network is up and running, showing you that you have the 5-bar Wi-Fi coverage. That means when you are on a Zoom call, you can have high definition Zoom call anywhere in your building, and you have the capacity for all your users, devices, and applications. We guarantee this. If you don't meet our numbers, we have financial liability. So this is not your standard SLA. If something goes wrong, I'll respond back in 2 hours. That's not the type of guarantee we are talking about. We are talking about guaranteeing the service itself. And in case, if you cannot deploy the physical sensors, Pascal, we have the sensors inside our access points. They act like dedicated sensors. They act like end users. They're testing the network and showing you that network is up and running. You have the coverage and you have the capacity. That's how we deliver the guaranteed performance.
What about the security, the cyber? Don't you, because you were talking about ACLs and ACLs. So how do you do that? Do you do a zero trust? I think you were doing zero trust, right? And that's a key aspect of your offering.
Sure. So Pascal, when you're delivering network as a service and you are responsible for anything and everything about the network. So what we do is, Pascal, the network itself, the physical layer, we don't even have a console port or a management port in our boxes. So nobody can walk into your IDF or the closet to connect to the switch and look into your data or look into your traffic that's going on the network. That's the kind of security. And you cannot put a third-party box in our network and make it work because it will not even come up. And you cannot even look at the traffic because we encrypted the hardware, the traffic using MEF-CECP in all our access points, access switches, distribution switches. So the first layer is the network itself is secured. Then second is, as part of the Zero Trust, every user and device has to be authenticated, authorized, whether it's on the wired or the wireless. And the best part is, Pascal, you don't have to go and configure the ports, switches, or the access points. You just say, as a customer, I want all my users and devices to get onto the network using .1x, or certain type of authentication, MAC-Auth, or single sign-on. Very interesting, Pascal. Let's say if you walk into it, the donut story I was talking about, the guy, donut delivery guy, when he connects to the port, if the device his laptop does .1x, we would automatically do it. If not, we do MAC-Auth. If not, we would give you single sign-on. These days, as you're using single sign-on for all your applications. Why not use single sign-on to access the network? All right. So we throw you single sign-on, and you can use multi-factor authentication. And that's how you get on the network. Then, as as part of the Zero Trust principle, you have to do continuous authentication and authorization. We do that as well. So it's not one time that Pascal is on the network, but hey, is it really someone spoofing the identity of the Pascal? Then once you're on the network, how do we guarantee that nobody is propagating the malware? We isolate every user and device. We call Zero Trust isolation from every other user and device. And then we give you micro-segmentation capabilities so that you can allow exactly what needs to be allowed between the users and the devices. That's how we deliver the Zero Trust built into our solution.
Well, that is really incredible. It's really what is needed, and hats off. It's really, really a great idea and great offering. So
thank you.
So I just want to, talk about a little bit about this AI. How does AI? You come from an AI background. How does AI now fit into all of this campus NaaS and your offering?
Yeah, Pascal, you don't go even a single day by without talking about AI or listening about AI these days, right? It has been a hype. And, before I go into that, Pascal, there is a report from Gartner about AI in networking. And it clearly states that, there's a lot of hype and a lot of wasted investments. And they're not really living up to the promises that they're talking about. On top of that, you know very well from your background that AI is a probabilistic system. It can give you great recommendations, but once in a while it can get it wrong. So something to remember that, right? Even if it's wrong by 5-10% of the time, do you want to bring down your network 5-10% of the time? Probably not. So this is where what we did was, AI has, we embraced the AI across the board, which across the day 0, day 1, and day 2. Let me give you a couple of examples. When we go and ask technicians to go and deploy access points, how do you know they installed it properly in the ceiling? Right? Is it properly snugged in? Or how do you know that switch is not slanting in a rack? So this is where they upload the images, and the images can be easily processed by AI and can tell you whether you installed it properly or not. And we do, RF, location triangulation, RF triangulation. All of this is based off of AI. These are the areas where we can see a lot of applicability. And even beyond that, we also created what we call softbots, Pascal. As you know, you said Wi-Fi is challenging. If you make any change on the Wi-Fi, whether you do software upgrade, channel change, how do you know all the users and devices are connected back? And going back to your application performance, how do you know that they have equal or better experience? So what our softbots do is, before any change that happens, we take the stock of every user, device, their experience. Once we make the change, they make sure that you have equal or better experience. Those are the kind of softbots we have created. Does it make sense, Pascal?
Yeah, totally. This is very good. Very, very impressed. I really didn't know the full story of Nile, so thank you for articulating this to me and to our listeners. Network as a Service we launched at GNE. We talk about it from a service provider delivery model that basically is an OpEx or subscription model. And we talk about it from underlays, overlays, cybersecurity, and multi-cloud. That's our 4 themes of that NaaS offering as service providers go to offer that. Now, that's great from a service provider offering into an enterprise, but they normally stop at, some user to network interface, we call that technically, which is a demarc point before you get to the actual campus or the branch or the LAN. So what you've done is you've gone and solved the part of the campus side and the offices and so on. How does it all come together? Do you sell through channels? Do you work with the service providers, or you just offer this on your own to the enterprises? Like, how does it all come together between the provider offering and the enterprise offering, that your campus NaaS? How will that all come together?
Sure. So Pascal, we're a partner-first company. As you know, Pankaj and John, when they were at Cisco, it was all led by the partners. So anything that we do is, led by the partners. And we're also working with service providers. Many of the service providers that not just in the US, but across the world. We are working with many of the service providers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And these service providers are willingly coming to us. Frankly, they're seeing that value of getting inside the wall or inside the building so that they can not only increase the top line, but also increase the bottom line. And the best part, Pascal, in the past, they could not do it is because it was extremely complex for them to, build the teams, build the practice and deliver it. With our solution, with our service model, they're able to do it much more easily because it doesn't require a lot of expertise, resources and effort in deploying these networks and monitoring and managing these networks. So it will be some of the top tier 1 service providers. They're working with us, and we're looking at we'll see when that happens, when the launch happens. But we're working with many of the service providers.
Yeah, and this is really in our blueprint of NaaS. We don't really address this enterprise side of NaaS, and I did put it out there that we have to put that as a gap that we need to fix in our blueprint. And so we are going to work with that. And thank you for joining on our technology advisory board, Suresh, and for joining MEF and hopefully make some contributions here. Because I think the 2 worlds have to come together. It's the wide area network and the clouds and all coming together. And now the campuses. I think it's an end-to-end model to remove friction. And it starts with the user device application all the way to the cloud side. And all of that friction has to be removed. And I think now, if you're channels of service providers, they're offering NaaS for various types of NaaS that I talked about, underlay, overlay, cybersecurity, and multi-cloud, and have a campus NaaS too, then it really comes together. I think this is brilliant. So I'm glad that you are working with providers to provide this. So it's awesome. So, what about, do you bring this, you say campus NaaS, do you bring this NaaS to like homes and small offices? And because I would like one in my house. So how does that work? Like if a company, enterprise has users all over and they're working from home now very typically, and the small offices and branch offices and big buildings and campus, do you have it for all of that?
So Pascal, at this point, we are focused on small, medium, large deployments, including the campus-wide deployments, not the home side of it. Because, there are lots of operational related challenges, when it's not the technology, but more operational related one. So we're focusing on, many of our customers, they start with 1 or 2 locations, as you can imagine, and prove it, and then expand it to other locations. So we've done one after another one constantly, where customers try it in one location and then continue to deploy across all locations, but it's really at office locations or the retails or the warehouses or the schools or the universities.
Got it.
That's where we are right now focusing on.
Got it. Makes sense. So, into wrapping up, any additional color you want to provide on the outcomes that your customers are seeing with Nile's Campus NaaS?
Sure, I'll give you a couple of them. Right. One is, one of our customers was trying to get cybersecurity insurance, and they could not get cybersecurity insurance. This is becoming a bigger challenge for many of our customers. When the CIO went and talked to the cybersecurity firm, the insurance firm, not only they got the insurance, but they also had lower premiums once they knew that they're using Nile. So clearly our Zero Trust model, our security model, our service model is helping customers to reduce their cybersecurity insurance premiums. That is one. Second is, we deployed it in Stanford University. It's a public case study where students explicitly stopped the IT teams and said that we feel the difference. That's the kind of quality that we're delivering it. And third is, we deployed it to another university where the new students were coming in the new academic year. Whenever the students are coming, there's a lot of anxiety among the university IT teams. And this time they had absolutely zero tickets. And the customer was really thrilled about it. Then other one is, there is another customer who was looking at expanding to other countries and other locations. And they did the analysis, ROI and TCO analysis, and found that we're at least 50 to 70% cheaper than doing it on their own or going through traditional model. So customers are seeing, security benefits, they're seeing the little to no tickets, and customers are seeing cost savings across the board. So that's the reason why we are seeing the success in the market.
Congratulations, Suresh. This is really good impact. I mean, there's nothing like, at the end of the day, you do things to get impact. And it sounds like you're doing tremendous impact to the enterprises, giving them great value. And, universities are very tough. I totally agree. The students come in all over the place, and to secure that and to give them the performance with so many, students using Wi-Fi, it's very difficult. Imagine going into some of these venues, like concert venues, and try to use Wi-Fi. It's just very hard. So it gets a lot of congestion. So managing all of that congestion, the performance, the security, very, very complex. And then certainly you seem to have really done this with Nile. So congratulations. Suresh, such a pleasure to having you on this episode. And I know our listeners will find this very, very intriguing. And thank you once again. And look forward to seeing you at our next members meeting and our technology advisory board meeting coming up.
Thank you, Pascal. Thank you very much for inviting me again, and looking forward to working with you at TAB. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for Executives at the Edge. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe today. Share online a review. Find all our episodes on your favorite podcast platform and at MEF.net.